Darren, you've been there in the morning as those cabinet ministers have been walking in. What do you expect the mood is like in Rishi Sunak's first cabinet meeting, being hosted, of course, as we speak?
Well, in some ways, I think there will be a relatively jubilant mood. For those that have come back to the cabinet again, they'll be pretty happy. People like Dominic Raab, Michael Gove. I think there will be relief among those that have managed to hold on onto their jobs, like Chris Heaton-Harris in Northern Ireland, or indeed James Cleverly as Foreign Secretary, and many others. But also, I think there will be a sense of just the difficult decisions facing this cabinet. We know that, as Jeremy Hunt put it, there'll have to be some eye-wateringly difficult decisions to be made in the days, weeks and months to come around things like departmental spending. Almost certainly cuts going to come to many government departments. In addition to that, potentially the possibility of tax rises too. And that is aside from the day-to-day stuff of how do you stop these kind of anti-oil protesters. That's a big task for the Home Secretary alongside dealing with the English boat crisis. Steve Barclay, Health Secretary again, is going to have to deal with another crisis in the NHS, it seems, this winter. Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, again, having to deal with the war in Ukraine and the, frankly, quite dangerous noises emanating from the Kremlin. So almost in every government department, there is a really, really serious challenge, effectively, for each cabinet minister, and I think that is why there will be a real sense, and indeed Tom Tugendhat, the security minister, who's also back in his job, just going into Downing Street, he is a little late. I thought cabinet was due
10 minutes late there for the cabinet meeting.
Up to this morning. I know. That's pretty bad, isn't it? Particularly when it's essentially the first day back in school. So, so what I'm trying to say is I think, there will be a real sense of seriousness, I think, around the cabinet table this morning. Just to pick up on your point about the kind of big change of the cabinet, I think in many regards, given the fact that Rishi Sunak stood outside number 10 and talked about the big mistakes that have been made in the last administration, in many regards it's a surprise maybe he didn't get rid of more ministers. Now I think that's a sign of clearly his political weakness and the divisions within the party, but there is a possibility that some of these government ministers will be associated with the past failings even in this new administration. That will be a bit of a dangerous thread potentially for the new Prime Minister. Clearly the big moment today is PMQs at 12, isn't it, Tom? I suspect Labour will go reasonably hard on Suella Braverman. Her appointment is an appointment of integrity and professionalism and to the highest standards, given the fact that she resigned last week with suggestions she'd broken the ministerial code, and even having made the admission that she made a mistake herself. And also, here is the Home Secretary, I think, leaving her home this morning. She is currently inside. She was actually one of the first ministers to arrive this morning, at least on time. And there will be a little bit of disquiet, and there is a bit of disquiet about Penny Mordaunt's position, having remained simply as Leader of the House rather than potentially a promotion. And there is this also continuing discussion, and I think this will dominate later on today, about when precisely this medium-term fiscal plan is going to come. It looks like it is going to be delayed beyond Monday. It was meant to be, of course, next Monday. There's a sense the markets have stabilised, that they need a bit more breathing time to get this right, not to muck it up like last time. And I think that date may be pushed back. And, of course, the reshuffle, if you want to call it that, has not ended. There are lots of ministerial positions still to be filled and people to be moved around, and that will continue later on today.
Yes, expecting those more junior ministerial posts coming throughout today, potentially a little bit later as well for the PUSSs and all the rest of it as you go lower and lower down the ministerial rung.